coming from the media community during this announcement. The net present value of this interest is around rupees 16,000 crores as per the company's best estimate. The detailed workings of the NPV of interest on spectrum and AGR dues have been shared with the DoT and is subject to change based on the conclusion of our discussions and final confirmation by the DoT. The equity shares will be issued to the government on a preferential basis. The relevant date of pricing is 14th August 2021, as communicated by the DoT. Since the average price of the company's share with respect of the relevant date was below par value, the equity shares will be issued to the government at par value of rupees 10 per share. Following conversion, the government will likely hold around 35.8% stake, while both the promoters will jointly hold 46.3%. The equity shares will be issued post-confirmation of the final amounts, as well as some procedural clarifications from the DoT. We believe the entire exercise will be completed in the coming months, post which the shares will be allocated through the statutory undertaking of the Unit Trust of India on behalf of the Government of India. In light of the conversion of interest into equity, the promoters have mutually agreed to amend the existing shareholder agreement and reduce the minimum qualifying threshold from 21% to 13% for the purpose of retaining their existing governance rights, such as appointment of directors, appointment of certain key personnel, etc. This amendment to the Articles of Association shall be subject to the approval of shareholders in the general meeting. With that, I pass you back to Balaji, and Balaji, happy to take any questions that you may have for me.
Thank you so much, Ravinder, for putting things in perspective. We'll now straight dive into the questions that have been asked to us by the media. The first one, which is on many people's mind, what is the rationale for this decision of Vodafone-Idea? And a follow-up question, actually, Ravinder, is why are we availing of this option now and not later?
Yeah, I think I see, by the way, some comments that people are asking as to how they ask questions. I think I just want to clarify that as well, is that I think the questions were asked by your team members before when this invite was sent out. And those are the questions that you have summarized that we will be asking. And we've taken all the relevant questions. So back to your first question, Balaji, on the rationale for this decision. I think if you remember the package which was announced by the government on 15 September 2021, there were two elements which were of that package which are associated with what I would call as the liquidity enhancing for the industry. There was a 4-year moratorium on dues that was offered by the government. And then there was an offer by the government to convert part of the DoT debt into equity. Now, as I mentioned earlier in my opening statement, we've already opted for the 4-year moratorium that was done back in October. Now, in this option of converting some of the DoT debt into equity, as you know, the company has a significant amount of debt. We have a stretched balance sheet. And I think anytime there's an option to convert that debt into equity is considered positive for the company. And especially considering the fact that most of the debt is to the Government of India, it was clear to us that actually converting some of that debt into equity is a good option for the company to reduce its debt going forward. And hence the board has decided to make this conversion and avail of to the fullest extent the option that was offered by the government. Now, as we know that the government had I think the follow-up question, Balaji, that you asked was, why now? Well, I think both the opting in for the moratorium as well as the equity conversion is a one-time option that was given to us by the DoT. And the deadline for making those decisions were during this time, back in October, the one for the moratorium, and actually the debt to equity conversion option selection had to be done. I think yesterday, I believe, was the last day. And we obviously made the choice right before then. So this timing of this is very much related to the timelines that were laid out by the government in its reform package.
Thank you, Ravinder. There's a lot of questions that have come to us regarding the timelines. Many of our friends want to know the timelines for this process to be put in place and effected.
So I think the main thing is we have exercised the option now for this conversion. As I mentioned earlier, we have shared all our calculations for these amounts and how we have come up with this, the amount of shareholding that the government will have and all the details around that. We have shared all those calculations with the DoT. The DoT will, according to its letter, will be certifying all these calculations. I am sure they will be, given the complexity of the calculations and the numbers and the amount of data that has been shared, I'm sure there will be some engagement with the DoT to clarify and to some extent, hopefully finalize and certify these numbers. Once those numbers have been certified and finalized, then the shares will be issued, as I mentioned again, through the statutory undertaking of the Unit Trust of India. And my hope is that all of this will be done actually in the coming months. It should not take a very long time.
Thank you, Ravinder. Some questions have come around the largest shareholder, single largest shareholder of the government with this option being exercised. And so what role do you expect the government to play in the management of Vodafone-Idea Limited?
So I think this is seems to be a pet question, and I think we've talked about this before, but I want to reiterate one more time for absolute clarity. In all of our interactions, with the government leading up to the package itself, and even after the announcement of the package, I think it has been very clearly stated by the government that they do not want to run this company. They do not have the desire to take over the operations of this company. They want three private players in the market. They certainly do not want a duopoly or a monopoly. So I think the government has been very, very consistent in telling us that. They have made it also very clear that they want the promoters of this company to run this company going forward as well. So I can only reiterate everything that they have mentioned to us, and I have had personal conversations in many cases where they have reiterated these things. So I don't expect that to be deviated. I expect them to continue with that position. I can also say that the VIL promoters, which is Aditya Birla Group and Vodafone Group, will continue to manage and control the company and its operations as they have been doing in the past. I think I can also say on behalf of the VIL management in a very, very clear manner that we will continue to run. And our commitment is to continue to run a world-class professional organization that is very much focused on delivering a great customer experience and service delivery to our customers. We are committing to doing that. There will be no change in that. And certainly from a day-to-day going forward basis, we do not expect any of those things to change. So once again, the government is very clear. They want us to run the company. They want the promoters to run the company. And that is what we intend to do going forward as well.
Thank you, Ravinder. A follow-up question is, has the government confirmed that to you?
Yes, absolutely. As I said, they have, in all of my interactions, they've been very, very clear about that. So I'm saying that through personal discussions.
Yeah, thank you so much for that clarification, Ravinder. There's a follow-up question on the same topic. Will the government be appointing board members?
So again, this is a very asked question. So there is no condition in the letter that the DoT has written to us in the option that we have chosen to convert this interest into equity, which allows for a board seat for the government of India. So in that regard, I just want to emphasize again, the government has shown no intention, or we believe that they have no understanding in nominating any board members, and we don't expect any board members to be there. So again, the board of the company will continue, and all the operations as they have been will continue the way they have been so far.
Thank you, Ravinder. There's a slightly different question which has come up around does this decision in any way change the role and commitment of the existing promoters?
I think, again, a very, very important question. So first of all, I want to be very clear and again want to emphasize that the engagement from the promoters, both Aditya Birla Group as well as Vodafone Group, continue to be very, very high. They are committed to the business. They are involved in decision-making in the business. They are participating in all and being very productive in all the decision-making that is the company is doing. And I can again commit to you is that they will continue to guide the business, and they are actively involved in all the decision-making of the business now and going forward. As you would have seen that they have accepted a significant dilution actually to support the balance sheet of the company going forward, which again is a very strong commitment from the existing promoters to say that they want to make sure that the company stays healthy, and they are committed to continuing to progress the company forward in a very, very positive direction. And I think this is where we expect this to continue, and we expect their interaction and their role to continue to be the same as it has been in the past.
Thank you so much, Ravinder. There's a question on fundraise. In fact, people asking, what is the impact of this on the existing fundraising process that is underway?
Yeah, so I think we mentioned this before. We have been engaged with investors for several months now. I can confirm again very, very strongly that there is a huge interest in investors, especially international investors, in investing in India. They're interested not only in India, they're interested in the telecom sector, and we've had interactions with several of them. I think there were three main concerns that if I was to summarize, there were three main concerns that were coming up from the investors. The first one was, I think clearly, does the government want three private players in this?
This meeting is being recorded.
I think the other part that was very clear was that they wanted to know, is the government going to support reform in this sector? Clearly, there have been challenges in this sector, and there have been issues in terms of stress and so on with the government support reform. And the third thing that they were interested in seeing is that would the government support from a liquidity and a financial perspective supporting the sector. It is very, very clear that they have done that in the reform package, which we again mentioned back in September, the last time we had this discussion. And now, especially on the liquidity front with the 4-year moratorium, which was offered and we have accepted, as well as this equity conversion option, which has been offered, now we have accepted. I think it's clear that most of these things that the investors were concerned about are starting to actually happen or have been happening now as we go forward. And I think clearly this should be a positive sign for the investors and should help relieve some of the fears or some of the concerns that they had brought up earlier. So I would say that this process is positive for the fundraising part. Certainly it has been positive from investor feedback. And I would hope that we would continue forward as we have been on the fundraising process and hope to actually be back shortly to announce some of the fundraising and conclusion to the fundraising process very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Ravinder, for that clarification. One question. We understand that there was a modification in the existing shareholder agreement. What was the reason for that?
So I think, so just to clarify the modification that took place, as per the existing shareholder agreement that existed prior to us making this option, the total promoter shareholding percentage was about 72%. And within that 72%, the promoters had governance right. They had the ability to maintain governance rights, that are some of them which I mentioned earlier, up to a point where the minimum shareholding was 21% each by the shareholders. So combined 42% on the basis that there were total promoter shareholding of 72%. Now with this dilution, as I mentioned earlier, the total promoter shareholding will come down to about 46%, just a little bit over 46%. So I think in line with that reduction, the promoters have made changes to the existing shareholder agreement where their governance rights and their ability to direct and promote the company will continue till their shareholding is, the minimum shareholding is 13% each, so up to a total of 26%. So in light of the reduction in the promoter shareholding, due to this dilution, they have also, in a way, committed to still continue to promote the company and still continue to direct the company and control the governance rights of the companies, even up till 26% of the promoter shareholding. And I think that, again, once again, is a strong commitment from the promoters to say that they will continue to direct the company, they will remain involved, they will guide the company going forward. And I think it's very, very important. So I think that is another important sign, but that was predominantly the crux of the shareholder change that took place, which we also announced yesterday as well.
Thank you so much, Ravinder, for answering the questions with candor. As I see friends from the media, your questions in the chat, most of them have been addressed by Ravinder. There are some which are forward-looking. We would obviously not be in a position to answer that. You'll also appreciate that we are in silent period because we are going to be announcing our quarterly results later this month. And therefore, it would be inappropriate for Ravinder to answer anything which is already not in public domain or answer more than this. We have noted down your questions. There were even yesterday some questions around investment plans and 5G. Surely we have taken note of it and we will address them once the silent period is over. Please do send your questions offline as well beyond this interaction. We'll definitely note them. As I said, we are in silent period, so there are certain guidelines that we have to follow as a listed company that Ravinder is mindful of. So thank you for joining us today. This is what we wanted to share with you on clarification that we received on questions yesterday from you, and we'll continue to clarify our position in due course. Thank you once again. Wish you a very good day and look forward to your support in the future as well. Thank you very much.
The recording has stopped.
Hello? Tejal? Tejal?
Hello, Lata.
Okay. Shivanjali is on the call, right? Is she unmuted?